So, tyre dressings. These for me are four completely different types of finish, but these four are four of my favourite tyre dressings really available. I'm going to go through four different application methods in this video and four different finish types and kind of give you my reasons as to why they're all important, but where you would use them and sort of in what instance. But a bit of admin first as always. All tyre dressings should be dressed onto a clean tyre. Now, tyres are a bit of a funny thing because you're going to have all this brake dust kicked up past the wheel. I mean, brake dust doesn't stop at the wheel. It will go sort of on everything else. And tyres, rubber, it's naturally sort of a bit more porous. It holds onto dirt and it doesn't always kind of get the full clean that it needs. Now, detailing, everything in the finishing game and detailing is based on prep work. So prep is important, prep is key. Now prep on tyres can take time. So I've demonstrated to you there, kind of spray good quality all-purpose cleaner, in this case Bright Max, and then I've agitated it with Autoglanz's brush, and you saw a lot of brown coming out of the tyre. Now, it's not always done on the first go, so you do sometimes have to reapply cleaner and re-clean, and sometimes even use a more aggressive tool. So I've gone from the Autoglanz brush to this, which is an Autoglim high-def wheel brush. Now, small word of warning, do not use this on your wheels unless you like them. You sometimes really need to scrub on 2-3 goes, sometimes more, all of the dirt out of that tyre wall. But trust me, it is worth it for two reasons. You're going to get the best finish from your tyre dressing and you're going to get the best durability as well. So it's kind of key to do these things first. If you do, you're going to reap rewards. You're going to kind of reap the dividends of that bit of graft. And you can see this is sort of the third hit that I'll show you. The foam being agitated from the all-purpose cleaner is getting cleaner and cleaner. It's getting whiter with each hit. So you can see the dirt is coming out of the tyre. So you can see it is a job that is worth doing and completing, sometimes multiple times. Once that is all done, you should really ideally let the tyre dry or dry it and then come to your application. So application method number one, this is with Nero, which is from Autoglanz. It's a spray dressing. Do not spray tyre dressings onto your car. It will travel down the car as you spray it, and you're going to get this stuff all up your paint, on your glass, and the stuff streaks, it smears, it's a pain in the backside. So application method for me on number one, it's one of my favourite ones, is to just apply it to a cheap microfiber. The sort of thing that you don't mind chucking away after it's had a few goes at doing this. It stops that travel down the car and you can kind of really work it into the tyre wall. The other upshot of doing this, and it's why it's one of my favourite methods, is it's very difficult to over apply when you've got any excess that the tyre is not able to absorb. The microfiber will kind of hold on to that. So it has that dual purpose of reducing sling for those that can be a little bit heavy-handed with the dressing. It's a good way to do it. Number two for me is a brush application. I know a lot of guys do this. It's not always been my favourite, and I'll do it here with Carpro Perl. You can work it again into the tyre wall really, really nicely. It gives you a lot of control over it. It stops you kind of getting it onto the wheel or anything like that. For me, just never really been a fan, but it may work for you, so I've included it in the video just the same. If you use this method, great, good for you. It does work. It is a method that is available to you. Third method I used was with a proper tyre dressing applicator. I did that with ODK's Attire. Now, there are pros and cons for those as well. For me, tyre dressing applicators are brilliant with when you have a big sidewall on your tyre. Anything that's a little bit lower profile like this, what will happen is one side of that curve catches onto your wheel if you're not careful, and pretty much you just smear some dressing onto there. Now, why is that a bad thing, you ask? Well, basically, it'll hold on to dirt. So don't do that. Always try and, basically do this. Apply the dressing to the top, or, well, I say top, just one half of the applicator and work it in from there. The final method is just to use an applicator pad, which works, perfectly fine as well. Again, you tend to dispose of them after a few goes of doing this. Now, why do we have these different methods of, well, I say different methods, different finishes of tyre dressing? For me, I've got four on display here. So the Obsession Wax Nero is a gloss tyre dressing. All of the finished shots you're going to see here is after 2 coats, and I swear by that as well, 2 coats of tyre dressing. The Obsession Wax is a gloss dressing. The Carpro Perl for me is a matte dressing. The ODK Attire is a dark, rich coloured dressing. And the Infinity Wax Rubber Wax is a natural dressing. Now, why do you have all 4? Now, part of that is preference. Some will like gloss, some like matte, some like natural, some like, that darker, richer dressing. There is a detail which I don't see discussed all too often, but it's one that I really do believe in. And that is pairing a tyre dressing to 2 scenarios. So one is the colour of the car. I tend to find that gloss against dark works well. Matte against light cars works well. That is a preference thing. The thing that I don't see really mentioned at all is pairing your dressing with the plastics on the car. Now for me, on silver and on my car, my biggest preferential one is the Carpro Perl. And the reason for that is this: that when it's dressed ties in with the plastic bump strips around the bumper and down the side of the car. That's what I don't see addressed all too often. Now, why is that important? It ties the finish together. You may find out that you use a different dressing on the bumper strips than on the rubber because they'll take dressings differently, and then you'll end up with a cohesive finish across those 2 platforms. And it is a nice finishing touch. Now, when you look at different cars that have a lot of plastic, so I'm going to use a Mini, for example. You've got those big old bits of plastic over the arch liner. You don't get a high gloss finish on those, typically speaking, without putting a lot of dressing in. But why would you do that high gloss finish on those and then not tie it down to the tyre? People don't typically consider that, and I think that's wrong. If you do start to tie these 2 details up either way, and then tie up one that suits the paint finish better, I guarantee you'll get a better overall end result. You get a better overall finish. And then you just tailor with your preference. So that's where your own ideas come into play and your own preferences come into play as well. But overall, I would say don't just say this is the best tyre dressing. For me, I think the change that needs to be made is people should say this is the best type of tyre dressing against this situation. Start looking at it that way. And start getting it right that way, and I think you'll see a nice improvement in the finished look of your detailing.